cancer community. And it is our privilege and opportunity to develop new services and resources to meet your needs. For example, recently, we have a new online support group for women under 40. And it was developed because many of the younger women were trying to balance treatment, work, home, and families. And they were more apt to attend an online group as opposed to an in-person group, and it's been very successful so far. Our BEST program, targeting our underserved women, was developed to provide education, screening, and treatment to those most in need. And I want to thank Senator Hannan for providing additional funding this year to support this project. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce you to Dr. Steve Everett, who's the Provost and Executive Vice President of Adelphi University. He joined us back in July. Dr. Everett?
Thank you, Hillary. And thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm very pleased to be here. When I was coming here 4 months ago, and I started looking at this university, trying to understand what is Adelphi, what is really about, what is the best of this university, how do we inspire students, what ways do we do that? I quickly discovered the breast center here and the activities that have been going on for 30-something years now. That was an extraordinary, important part of my decision to come here. Because, you know, what we want to do, we want to nurture students into understanding their role in nurturing their communities. And how do we help students, inspire the students to understand what's important about going out into their futures. And I think no more better example than what happens here in this organization. I think this is the best example of what Adelphi is about and what this, how we serve the community. So I'm very pleased to be part of this. Also, it's personally important for me. My wife just went through breast cancer that had her mastectomy this year. So I understand exactly what you do, the value that you're giving, and I want to thank you personally for all the work you've done, and welcome you to Adelphi, and I hope to see you many more times after this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Everett. And there's so many people to thank for tonight. It really takes a village to put this evening together. And I want to thank my incredible staff. Will you stand, please? Erin, who organized tonight's event. Raina, Michelle, Kim, Linda, Angelica, Lois, Angela, Naomi, and Flynn. They are really fabulous. I couldn't be luckier to have such a wonderful staff. Thank you. I'd like to thank Andy Sapir, the Dean of the School of Social Work. Thank you, Andy. Our interns, Kizzy, Desiree, Janice, and Joanne. Every year we take MSW and VSW interns from the School of Social Work, and then there are new interns. Our advisory board, the members who are here tonight, Joan Beater, Pam Shapiro, and Dr. Ron Israeli. Where are you? Of course, I have to thank our amazing volunteers. Our volunteers are really the backbone. They're the heart and soul of our program. They're committed, they're generous, they're compassionate, they are really amazing. So will all the volunteers who are here tonight please stand? To our very generous sponsors of our journal program tonight, and to all the people and businesses who donated to tonight's raffle. So please look through the program and see the generosity of our sponsors. Thank you. We work very hard to make all of our services free and available to all, including tonight's event. To do so, we do need your support. I hope that you have purchased raffle tickets and put them in the raffle bags, and at the end of the evening, There'll be boards in the lobby area with the winning numbers. I ask you to continue to support our program with your generosity throughout the year. Thank you. I want to give a special award to Cat's Ribbon of Hope and tell you a little bit about who they are. It was truly kismet when we first met Katerina Raptis and Despina Yarian, the founders, two of the founders of Cat's Ribbon of Hope. Some of the staff members met them at a meeting about patient navigation that Congressman Steve Israel was hosting. Our staff invited Kat and Despina to meet with us to talk about our program and what they were planning to do with their newly formed foundation. They proceeded to tell us that Kat was diagnosed with breast cancer at 32. And while she had excellent support and medical care, she became aware that others less fortunate did not. We shared our work with underserved diagnosed women and the fact that the day before our meeting, we had lost our funding that supported that project. It's kismet. From that point on, they became our funders, our partners, and supporters, and we are very grateful to them. Since 2014, Cat's Ribbon of Hope has granted our program over $348,000. They and all those involved, including Kat's husband, George, who's also on the board and a founder, are also some of the nicest people you ever want to meet. Tonight, we are proud to honor Cat's Ribbon of Hope for their compassion, generosity, and for the amazing work that they do. And I'd like to ask Kat and Despina to come up. Present you with this award. The Adelphi New York Statewide Breast Cancer Hotline and Support Program proudly honors Cat's Ribbon of Hope for their support, generosity, and partnership. Celebration of Survivorship, October 18th, 2018.
Cat's Ribbon of Hope, I would like to thank you for this honor. Right now in the United States, there are 3.5 million breast cancer survivors, and I am proud to say that I am one of them. 6 years ago, when I was diagnosed at 32 years old, it took me a while to accept the diagnosis, but I did it. And then I turned my turmoil into something good, something that would make an impact on women with breast cancer. My diagnosis was an opportunity for me to transform myself to someone who is focused on living my life to the fullest. Someone who is thankful for the air that I breathe. Someone who is so incredibly focused on nutrition and fitness. And most importantly, someone who is an advocate for women who are diagnosed with breast cancer. Every day I'm in contact with women who have been diagnosed or with families of women who have gotten that dreaded call. This foundation and my board have taught me so much about unity and teamwork and leadership in fighting cancer. I am so proud that this foundation has allowed us to touch individual women who do not have the means to advocate for themselves in their fight. Personally, I've had the opportunity to be part of research teams and clinical studies at 3 of the largest hospitals in the country. We are changing lives through our contributions to research as the single funder for 2 patient navigators here at Adelphi who help women daily. I stand before you this evening, honored that you have chosen me to be a part of your symposium to celebrate survivorship. I am proud of Cat's Ribbon of Hope for what it stands for and for how we have gotten here. Thank you.
Our first speaker is Susan Leach. She's a 3-time breast cancer survivor. She's a wife and a mother of 2 boys. Susan currently is a care coordinator for the Rockville Center Breast Cancer Coalition and helps others going through similar diagnoses. She is an active member in the Adelphi Breast Cancer Support Group for women with metastatic breast cancer. She is always happy to give and get support from the women in the group. Susan enjoys spending time with her family, sitting on the beach, and enjoying every minute of her life. Susan, please help us join us.
Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Susan Leach, and I am a 3-time breast cancer survivor. First, I would like to thank the Adelphi Breast Cancer Hotline and Support Program for honoring all of us tonight for being survivors. This is always a great night to be with our friends and families, to meet new people, hear other people's stories about what they've gone through, and to support each other. It's also a great night to show our thanks for programs like this that help us through these difficult times. My story begins in February of 2001. I was 35 years old, married, and had 2 beautiful boys. Matthew was 6 and Patrick was 1. I was enjoying every day of my life until the unexpected happened. I woke up that morning and I felt a lump on my right breast. I thought maybe it could be from breastfeeding my little one. But something told me to go and get it checked out. I had no history of breast cancer in my family, and I didn't know anyone with breast cancer. So I didn't even think it could be that. I called the doctor's office, and they said I could come in that day. The doctor examined me, said he wasn't sure what it was, and said he was going to send me for a mammogram sonogram. I had never had one before. I was only 35. I went for the tests, and then sat in the waiting room with my husband. The radiologist said he wanted to speak with us. He called us into his office, and he told us I had breast cancer. You hear stories every day about someone being diagnosed with breast cancer, but you never think it could happen to you. Again, I was only 35. I had a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. This can't be happening to me. He told me I would need to find a breast surgeon who would then schedule me for a biopsy to confirm this news. I agreed the radiologist was wrong, and that this was just a big mistake. After a few days of doing some research, I found a breast surgeon. I called her office, and the receptionist told me I could come in that afternoon. My husband went with me, and the doctor spoke in depth with us about the mammogram, sonogram results, and what was found. She explained that the tests showed multiple suspicious cysts all over my right breast, and she was pretty sure they were cancerous, and that I would most likely need a mastectomy. She said she was going to send me for a biopsy, and they would know more after that. I think I was numb. I didn't even know what to say. There were no words to say, except I needed to ask her one question. Was I going to die? I was terrified, and I know my husband was too. The doctor was so kind to us and so caring, and we needed someone like that at that moment. We must have been in her office for about 3 hours that afternoon. She was knowledgeable and so informative, and we really appreciated that. She never said I was going to be fine, because who really knows? She never said, don't worry, because how could we not? What she did say was that she would do her part by removing the cancer, and in return, she needed me to be strong and to stay positive. She said, people survive breast cancer every day. Yes, some people do die from it, but many people do survive. You need to stay positive. Those words made such an impact on me, and I never forgot them. I went for the biopsy, and then I waited for that phone call, praying it would not be positive for cancer, but it was. Now I needed to schedule surgery, find a plastic surgeon, and an oncologist, things I never thought I would be doing at the age of 35. But even though I was scared, I was a strong person, and I was a very positive person. I was not going to let this destroy me. I had a family to take care of, and a life to live. There was still so much I wanted to do. I wanted to see my boys graduate from high school and college, get married, and have babies of their own. And I I wanted to grow old with my husband. I got through the surgery, I got through the chemo, and I got through the reconstruction. It really was the year from hell. It wasn't always easy, but somehow I did get through it. I never once said, why me? Things happen for a reason. Did I want this to happen? Absolutely not. But it did, and I was going to do whatever I had to do to beat this. One of the reasons I had to stay strong and positive was because my husband and 2 little boys needed me. I have a great memory from my oldest son, Matthew, who is now 24. He tells me he remembers very little from when I was sick the first time. He says he remembers me always having an upset stomach and always being tired. I remember going bald, being nauseous, exhausted, and terrified. Matthew was in the 1st grade, and when he would get home from school every day, he would pour me a glass of ginger ale because he knew that ginger ale always made me feel better. Then after that, we would go outside, we would play some baseball or basketball before we had dinner. He was only 6, and he didn't need to be scared or worried about me. So I made life as normal as possible for him and Patrick. I cherish those memories we made and the times we spent together, because that is what kept me positive. Over the years, I helped others going through this horrible disease. So many people helped me, and if I could just help other people see that as awful as this disease is, it is not always a death sentence. There are so many great doctors out there, amazing new medicines, and wonderful support groups to help you through this difficult time. I reached out personally to others going through this because I really wanted to be there for them. I wanted to give them my guidance, my friendship, or just my ear to listen to what they had to say. It's not easy to ask someone for help. I know, I went through it. It's hard. But you need help, you need support, and you need someone to just listen to you, or to just give you a hug, especially someone who has gone through it and knows exactly what you are going through. So I did this for many years, and it helped me heal as much as it helped them heal. And then one day, after being a survivor for 12 and a half years, I found a lump. It was October of 2013. Can this really be happening to me? Again? This time the lump was on the skin of my right breast, about the size of a pea. I made an appointment with the breast surgeon. She examined me and said she needed to send me for a biopsy. Same place, same fears, same news. The biopsy confirmed it was breast cancer that spread to my skin. Because it spread to my skin, which is a major organ, it was considered stage 4. It had metastasized. They tell you there's always a chance for reoccurrence. It's always in the back of your mind, but you pray it doesn't ever happen. But sometimes, unfortunately, it does. I went for a PET scan to make sure the cancer hadn't spread anywhere else, and thank God it had not. I needed surgery again, this time a lumpectomy to remove the lump. That was followed by chemo and radiation. You think going through it once is hard, but doing it all over again was even harder. I think because I knew what to expect. It was terrifying. One of the chemo drugs the doctor put me on was Herceptin, a cancer drug that interferes with the growth and spread of cancer cells in the body. I prayed this would work and the cancer would never grow back again. My family was so helpful to me. My husband and my boys took care of things around the house, and they also took care of me when I needed them. I can't thank them enough for that. My boys were older now and able to understand the disease a little better. They knew when I needed my rest. They teased me about being bald to make me laugh. And they always knew when I needed a hug. My friends were also so helpful. They sent over meals, they wrote me beautiful notes, and they came by for visits. That was so heartwarming and so greatly appreciated. And I feel so fortunate to have such wonderful friends. I researched support groups and I joined the Adelphi Breast Cancer Support Group for women with metastatic breast cancer. There I met amazing social workers and became friends with wonderful women battling the same disease I had and going through the same fears I had. I continued reaching out to others fighting this disease, and I helped them deal with their illness so they could heal. Again, all the while without them realizing they were helping me heal. Support really is an amazing thing. I went for regular PET scans, checkups, and was very proactive. Then on a routine PET scan in March of 2016, cancer was found on my lymph nodes behind my chest wall. I cried with my husband, got hugs from my family and friends, and reached out for support from my support group. These women over the years have become my friends. We've cried together many times, but also laughed together many times. Once again, I had to find the strength to fight this disease. I didn't need surgery this time. My doctor put me on Perjeta, along with a Herceptin, once every 3 weeks to hopefully shrink and eradicate the cancer cells. Again, I prayed hard that this treatment would work. In January of 2017, the Rockville Center Breast Cancer Coalition was established. They provide support services for women in the community who have been diagnosed with breast cancer. I joined right away, and a few months later became a care counselor for them. We are a group of survivors who help newly diagnosed women that may need support, guidance, or friendship. I say every day that this has been one hell of a journey, but all I ever wanted to do on this journey was to help others. And I do believe I've done that, and I will continue doing it. If one person sitting here today can look at me and say, wow, she went through this 3 times and survived and still remains so positive, then I pray I can give them the hope and inspiration so they too can do it. I'm still undergoing treatment with the Herceptin and the Perjeta, and I will most likely have to continue this treatment for the rest of my life. Believe it or not, I just had treatment this morning. But the chemo seems to be working, so I will continue to do it for as long as my doctor says to. I go to work every day, and I keep my life as normal as possible. I'm so very grateful to work for a company that has been so supportive of me throughout all of this. I truly thank them for all they have done for me. I stand in front of you today, cancer-free. I've been a survivor for the past 17 and a half years, but I've had no evidence of disease for the past year and 9 months. I know there's a chance it can come back again, but if it does, I will deal with it then. As of right now, I'm enjoying every day of my life, spending time with my family and friends. I got to see my boys graduate from high school, and Matthew has graduated from college and is now working in the city. Patrick is attending Farmingdale and has shown a huge interest in woodworking. So in honor of women battling this disease, he donated a hand-carved wooden breast cancer flag, which you may have noticed amongst the raffle prizes. It's really very beautiful. I look forward to seeing Patrick graduate from college in 4 years, and I can't wait for the next chapter in my boys' lives, when they hopefully get married and have babies of their own. I'm excited about growing old with my husband and enjoying the rest of our life together. I'm so grateful for all the support from my family and friends, and all the support that is out there, and I'm very thankful that I'm here today.
Our next speaker, Geralyn is a 23-year breast cancer survivor, and you can clap. And an award-winning journalist, author, and women's health advocate. Her memoirs, Why I Wore Lipstick to My Mastectomy, and Then Came Life, were translated around the world and received starred reviews in Library Journal. Lipstick was produced for television and received an Emmy nomination for Best Television Movie. Geralyn's story was featured in Nora Ephron's smash off-Broadway show, Love, Loss, and What I Wore. Her YouTube short titled, Ouch, Implored Women to Get Mammograms, was a Webby honoree. Her daughter Sky is a sophomore at her alma mater, University of Pennsylvania, and her son Hayden is 12 and just received his black belt. Please welcome Geralyn.
I can't believe my son has a black belt. I'm so non-athletic. It's ridiculous. I'm wearing heels, and that's my workout for today. I'm really sad and humbled. I have to go after you. Susan, why did I wear mascara? But I think all of us as survivors worry when we're diagnosed that we will have to face this again. We will have to face a new diagnosis, a recurrence, and your courage and the way you told your story to us and shared with us. It was so raw and powerful. I just feel like I'm not going to have to take as much Klonopin. I take Klonopin when I worry. I don't know if anyone else takes Klonopin or drinks white wine, but I don't know. You just made me feel better. It's such a gift. Like I'm not as worried anymore. That is so wonderful. It was so healing to hear how you took this on. Thank you for being a role model for all of us. I'm blown away, really. So really quickly, thank you to Erin and Hillary. Thank you to Mike who brought me here. He's my family's financial advisor, planner, and he took out a journal ad. So if you could all support Mike, really appreciate that. And sorry, book club, I was supposed to meet you. There was so much traffic. We're going to do a special book club, okay? And I also want to thank all the volunteers. Did you stand already, the volunteers? I just think we should say hi to you. Do you stand? Do we have volunteers here? Come on. Thank you. And I just also want to say that, Dr. Everett, it was very touching what you shared about your wife, and we are all sending her so much love. And, wow, this group, I mean, it's an honor. I want to ask if anyone in the room believes in angels. Anyone? Yes. So I want to tell you about the day I became a survivor. Do we have a lot of survivors in the room? Could we just do a show of hands or, oh my gosh, okay. You're my hardest crowd. I did sense there was inner cleavage in the room, a lot of it. And I just want to say as a side note that I believe one person can change the world and make a difference in another person's life. And I am so happy I heard of this program from Mike. I never knew about this program. Both my parents were social workers. I think it is so extraordinary. So the day I became a survivor, some people say they're a survivor the day they become diagnosed. I'm so short, sorry. Some people say it's the day they finish treatment. So the day I became a survivor, it was the day before my mastectomy. It was my birthday. I was turning 28. Again, no family history. I'll tell you the backstory, but this chapter of my book is called I Need to Get It Off My Chest. I hadn't told anyone. I was too scared. I thought I was going to get fired. And then I did something I called cancer confessing. I couldn't stop telling people, the doorman, the deli guy, should I have a mastectomy or lumpectomy? It became a little inappropriate. So it's my birthday. I don't want anyone to sing me happy birthday. I don't think I'm going to live till I'm 30. And I'm having a one-woman pity party. And I make a controversial decision, particularly in the age of Me Too now. I decided I want to go out and get street harassed. I'm going to call it my last pre-mastectomy strut what you've got strut. It was my last hurrah. I had to shake it one more time. So I put on my best jeans and I go out and I try to hail a cab. 2 cabs nearly crashed to pick me up, and I thought, oh, maybe my jeans are working, but it was New York City in the summer. Everyone else is at the beach. I'm stuck having a mastectomy. I get into the cab, that one, and the cab driver has a disco ball in his rearview mirror. He's playing La Bamba really loudly, and he said, lady, I almost crashed my cab to pick you up. You look so hot. And I thought, oh, be careful what you wish for. He said, lady, do you like to dance? Next thing I know, I'm in a dancing cab. Has anyone ever been in a dancing cab? It's something like gas brake to the beat of La Bamba. And he said, lady, I bet you would look hot on a dance floor. Do you want to go dancing? And in my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going to dance with one boob? And I realized this is my moment of truth. I have to tell him what's going on. I took a deep breath. Sir, you're not going to want to dance with me. I am having my right breast cut off tomorrow. And after that, all my hair is going to fall out. Do you really want to dance with me? And I was kind of hoping he didn't hear because the music was loud. And next thing I know, we're parked in front of a bus stop, which is an automatic, like $600 parking violation. He stopped the cab, he got into the back seat, he grabbed my hand, and he said, "Lady, I have one ball." Now, at this point, I apologize if I've offended anyone, but when I was on The View, I had to say testicle. It's an FCC regulation, but he knew that he needed to add some credibility because I was getting really scared that people go to desperate measures to pick people up in New York City. So he added some cred. He said, "Lady, I was treated for testicular cancer at Sloan Kettering. I'm okay, you will be too." He drove me to my apartment. He kissed my hand. He didn't charge me a fare. And you know, when you meet another survivor like that and you know what they've been through, it's so encouraging, isn't it? And this is what this program does. And I thought it was miraculous, and he was an angel. And I thought, if an about to be one-boobed woman and a one-bald man find each other in a city of millions and figure out this truth within, you know, a 7-minute cab ride, what are the chances? It's greater than any needle in a haystack. And he was my one bald angel to show up to tell me I could be whole. Now, people said, "Do you keep in touch?" No, that would have been inappropriate. But I know he's still speeding around New York City, looking to inspire people. So having someone there, it's remarkable, isn't it? It makes all the difference. That's what you all do. Thank you for that. So my book, Why I Wore Lipstick to My Mastectomy, I look nothing like the book jacket. It's very airbrushed, 3 vodkas, one machine. And I've grown old, which is a great privilege, isn't it? So the title chapter, The Morning of My Mastectomy, I'm wearing one of those awful surgical gowns that has your butt hang out in the back, and it's marked Property of Mount Sinai Hospital. Strangely, I have become property of Mount Sinai Hospital too. I wanted to appear, I wanted to show up, I wanted to be glamorous. I wanted to be as far away from the scalpel as I could. I wanted to announce to everyone in that room I was going to wear lipstick again, but on my own terms next time. Now, you see, I was a gloss girl. I was never courageous enough to wear red lipstick. I didn't think I was beautiful enough. I thought it was reserved for movie stars and glamorous women. And I used to look at women in the restroom applying me, and it seemed to say, "Notice me. I deserve that." I wasn't that daring yet, but the morning of my mastectomy, I decided to become the woman I never thought I could be. And wouldn't you know, I thought about my surgeon looking at me intubated with bright red lips. And I thought, I'm going to be a little hot while I'm intubated. And maybe he'll think about the first girl he kissed and I'll appear. And maybe the nurses will think, her lipstick is so red it perfectly matches the blood in the OR. That girl is sassy. That is a true blood red lipstick. Anyway, when they woke me up in the OR, the nurse was screaming at me to breathe. She said, "Breathe, breathe. I'm going to have to hook you up to a respirator." Then she paused. "What kind of lipstick are you wearing?" She said, "I need the brand. It lasted for 7 hours. What is the brand?" Well, next thing I know, there was a kerfuffle in recovery, and nurses from cardiology, from OB/GYN, they wanted to see the girl with the lipstick that lasted. It stayed on. And it was a small victory. I felt like Frank Sinatra. I did it my way. And it's so unbelievable, the stories I hear now. I heard a story tonight about an entire operating room full of women wearing bright red lipstick when the patient was wheeled in wearing red lipstick. So I decided that living with risk of never having children, risk of infection, risk of recurrence, was going to make me a little risque. Every chemo, my skirts got shorter, my sweaters got tighter, which was really hard to pull off going through reconstruction. One side was an A, one side was a double F. Hearing my high heels click against the hospital floor was so hopeful. And of course, my lips got redder. So hearing this debate about whether women should get a mammogram at 50 or 40 is so upsetting, because you've heard about how many 30-year-olds and now a 20-year-old have breast cancer. I really believe early detection saves lives. And I want to congratulate Kat especially on your award tonight and accomplishment. I was only 28. The reason I even did a breast exam. My husband, when I first met him, a doctor, had just finished his rotation on the breast cancer floor. That's not how we met, it sounds juicy. He didn't give me an exam. He treated a 28-year-old woman who came in who didn't have insurance. She had been turned away from 3 clinics. She didn't speak English. And everyone told her, you're too young, and my husband believed her. And by the time he treated her, it was too late and had already spread. Well, what did you know? I was diagnosed at 28. She saved my life. She was my angel. And everything I do in her honor. Thank you for helping underserved women. It means so much to me. I didn't know I could get breast cancer in my 20s. I thought my mom had to have it. I thought I had to be 40. I found a lump in the shower. And I was so upset about women not getting mammograms, saying it hurt. I did a video. I spent the day in New York City running around asking women, what's the most painful thing you've ever done for beauty? What do you think I heard? Botox, Brazilian bikini waxes. I decided young girls know more about hair removal than they do about breast health, and it's pretty depressing. So I decided to do all the things that hurt, and then a mammogram. I did an Alchemeter. And at the end of the day, the mammogram hurt the least. I put on a Spanx. I feel like it does organ damage. I danced in high heels. So I even got Botox. So I feel like, please, if you are here tonight and have not had a mammogram, if you want to call a friend, encourage her to get checked, please do that. I want to end with a story of how much one person matters and how much I'm excited to be in a crowd of people. My first book signing for Lipstick, it was at Jacob Javits Center. Has anyone ever been there? Yes. Yeah, they told me 700 women were going to be there. I was terrified. Self Magazine was sponsoring a wellness expo. So I'm going down the escalator and I realize I'm up against another speech, and it's called Killer Butt. And I panic. Now, Killer Butt had a huge crowd. It was like a groupie scene. They wanted her autograph. She had a video. She was wearing lycra. She did really have a killer butt. She had a 3-point system, and I should have been a killer butt, but I had to give my speech. So there was no line outside my room. I thought everyone's inside. They want to get a good seat. I took a deep breath, I walked in, and what did you know? All the way in the last row was one woman, and she was crying. So I thought I could make a run for it because I don't look anything like the book jacket, and I was played by a blonde in the movie. So I decided I was going to do the walk of shame and go introduce myself. So I said, hello, this is my name, and thank you for coming. And what she said next took my breath away. My name is Janina. I'm having my mastectomy on Thursday. I took the bus, and it took me 5.5 hours to get here from Lehigh, Pennsylvania. I'm having my mastectomy. I have no one to talk to. No one understands what I'm going through. My daughter saw this flyer. And I realized in that moment, God was playing a very funny trick on me because I wrote my book and I said, if I reach just one woman, I will feel that I helped other women going through breast cancer. And there she was. And instead of talking, I listened. And Janina was kind of like a very sporty, sort of lumberjacky woman. And wouldn't you know, the day of her mastectomy, her daughter sent me photos of her on the gurney, clutching my book, wearing bright red lipstick. It was pretty amazing. That feeling of service is indescribable when you know you have made a difference in someone's life. There's nothing like it, right? Nothing. So thank you for the miracle of this program. And I just want to end with one thought, that I think when breast cancer happens, it's hard to remember that unexpected good things can happen too. And I feel very lucky that they told me I'd never have children, and my daughter was born in the same hospital where I had my mastectomy. I wore lipstick to my C-section. I breastfed with one boob. And my daughter now wears bright red lipstick. She just applied to medical school and she wants to major in breast reconstruction. Pretty amazing. And my son is actually a nationally ranked chess champion. And I can't even play checkers. So never give up on the miracle. Thank you for the miracle of this program, and never underestimate the difference you can make in someone's life.
Sonia Avery-Williams, who's originally from the island of Jamaica and came to New York in 1990. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer in February of 2015, she went from a nurse to a patient. She joined the support group here at Adelphi and says it was an integral part of her treatment. During her breast cancer journey, she relied on her family, specifically her husband and 2 kids. As she will tell you, she did everything she could to keep life as normal as possible for them. Sonia enjoys being active and spending time with her family. Please welcome Sonia.
Thank you very much. It was amazing just listening to both of you ladies' stories. Very inspiring. Thank you for sharing. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. So this summer I played tennis with my son for the first time ever. Getting him to play tennis with me was a challenge because he's 16 years old. What 16-year-old boy do you know that wants to hang out with his mom, right? But I was glad that he was able to fit me into his busy schedule. We played doubles tennis. I was amazed at how he was hitting the balls. I thought for sure, there were balls he was hitting, I thought for sure he would have missed. I know I would have. Tennis lessons paid off. I remember a few years back in elementary school, I tried to teach him. He was getting frustrated, he couldn't hit the balls. I knew he wanted to learn, but it wasn't happening. I'm glad I was finally able to enjoy a game of tennis with my son this summer. The reason I'm sharing this story with you tonight is because I didn't think I would be able to play the game of tennis again. In February of 2015, I got the life-changing diagnosis of breast cancer. I was shocked. It was not on my radar. I was 41 years old when I was diagnosed, and I know you're 28, but 40 to me is glamorous, okay? I also had no family history of it. 85% of breast cancer occurs in women with no family history of it. And it's more common in African American women under the age of 45. I had lost friends and coworkers who were also diagnosed with breast cancer in the past. And as a nurse, I had seen patients go through different stages of the disease. I didn't know how far along it was when I got diagnosed. I was thinking of the kids. Would I be there for them and their special moments, their graduations, their weddings, and to be able to see my grandchildren. I also thought about the effect it would have on me as a woman, as a wife. And I had to think about what options were right for me. The effects of cancer and the cancer treatment are physically and emotionally draining. The hair loss, fatigue, not being able to do the things that I liked to do before, such as tennis. Because after the surgery, I had what's called axillary web syndrome, which affected my ability to move my arm above a certain level. But thank God, I'm okay today. I also had to deal with the feelings that no one else understood what I was going through. I had individuals in my life who I thought would have been there, but there was not even a phone call. Maybe it was due to fear or not knowing what to say, who knows. But for every one of those persons, there were twice as many that were there above and beyond the call. I leaned a lot on my belief in God, that He would get me through this. I grew up going to church and reading my Bible every day. I had a prayer team at my church, family and friends praying for me. The Adelphi support group made a huge difference in my life. I met a lot of other beautiful women that were going through the treatment as well, and had also finished the treatment, and I knew that I also could do this as well. My first day of chemo treatment was during the summertime. I had promised the kids a special treat. I wanted to make the ordeal of my treatment as less as possible for them. So the day after my first treatment, a friend of mine called to see how I was doing. I said, "Oh, I'm a great adventure with the kids." She's like, "What? What?" She couldn't believe me. She was in disbelief. Everyone's experience with chemo is different. Fatigue and hair loss hits at different times. I had ended it on that day, so I said, "Let's do this." Thank God for my husband, who was there 100%. He was there with me to help me with the kids, and we enjoyed that day at Great Adventure. I was so worried about how the kids would take the news. We didn't share the information until we knew how far along the cancer was. I was stage 2. But even armed with this information, I still struggled with telling them the news. Cancer is a scary word. After many conversations in the Adelphi support group, I finally got the courage. My husband and I took the kids to the park. My kids were 8 and 13 at the time. So we said, I have some news to share with you. They looked at each other and they looked at us and said, are we having a baby brother or sister? That thought was so far from where I was going. It made me laugh. Kids are resilient. I remember going wig shopping with my 8-year-old daughter, Brianna. It was a big deal for me because I never used wigs before. I never used extensions except for braids. I love my hair. We went to a few stores and I didn't see anything I liked. So I went to one store on Jamaica Avenue. The clerk there was having a conversation with another woman talking about someone that had died from cancer. And she just kept persisting on the conversation. My 8-year-old daughter looked at me and said, Mom, don't worry. It's not going to happen to you. I was so impressed with her state of mind and her ability to think about my feelings, to want to comfort me when I was so worried about how she would feel about hearing this conversation. I turned around and screamed at this woman, telling her she had other customers in the store. My son Darren was also very encouraging and checking in on me every day. He's the one that signed up our family for the cancer walk at his school that year. The diagnosis of cancer can be devastating for the person diagnosed and their loved ones. But there is a silver lining to it. It makes you grow as a person. You look at life differently. You realize nothing is guaranteed, and no one knows the future. It's not what you have, but who you have in your life that matters, and what you do with that time. I have 13 siblings. In the space of 3 years, 2 of my other siblings were diagnosed with cancer. My older brother caught it at stage 1. My sister was not so lucky. She has mets all over. But if you look at her, you wouldn't know it. She's a fighter. We have to find a cure for this thing, cancer. But until then, we can do something. Everyone can do something to make a difference for someone going through cancer. A phone call just to let them know that you're thinking about them. Offering to bring food to the family so that they don't have to worry about making dinner one night. Maybe taking their kids out if they have kids to the movies or getting ice cream. Needless to say, now we are all playing tennis in my family. Even my husband, who has never taken up a racket before because he's more of a football fan. Giants fan to be exact. So now my son is playing varsity tennis at his high school, and he thinks he's a thing. But guess what, Darren? I'm coming back to get you. Thank you so much for listening to my story.
Flynn, who is a 5-year breast cancer survivor and a hotline volunteer with our program. He is also a husband, father, and a grandfather. Since his diagnosis, he committed to getting the word out to men to check themselves periodically and have physicians check your breast for lumps or cysts during physicals. Jeff was one of 4 men who were members of our first support group specifically for men. They also created a flyer for doctors' offices and mass mailings where men could read about their experiences, because so many men don't think that they can get breast cancer. Jeff continues to be an advocate for men who are diagnosed with breast cancer, and we're proud to have Jeff share his story with you tonight. Jeff?
So, thank you, Hillary, and thank you all for the opportunity. Well, first of all, good evening. And I'd first like to thank the Adelphi staff and all of you for giving me the opportunity to tell my male breast cancer story. It's very rare, and I'd like to speak about breast cancer for men in general.
Can you hear him in the back?
Can you hear me? No. Is this working? Can you hear me? Okay. As some of you may know, male breast cancer accounts for just 1 to 2% of all breast cancer. Many men, even some doctors, are unaware of the fact that men can get breast cancer. And we don't perform a simple breast examination on ourselves or get it done during annual physicals. I have been actively communicating that men should check their breasts regularly while in the shower as they check their private parts and have their internists check them during their annual physical examination. So I'd like to tell you my story. It starts over 6 years ago, Hillary. I was carrying our blind dog. It was a little Westie. His name was Kills, and I had to carry him outside every day to do its business. One day I picked Kills up, he fell back against my chest, and I felt a little pain, and I felt a lump, and mentioned it to my wife, and she said to go get it checked. So like most of the males, I thought that it's really nothing. This is probably a sebaceous cyst or a swollen gland. I'll be fine. So, and I was very busy at the time of work, so I let it go. I'd never even heard of breast cancer in men, and I never knew of another male with breast cancer. So approximately 6 months later, my wife and I went down to Florida for a vacation. I was changing for a day at the beach, and my wife said to me, "Jeff, your left nipple is inverted," and said, "That's a classic sign of breast cancer." So we discussed it all the way home on the plane, and she said, "When you get back, you're going to go see a breast surgeon." So when I returned home, Maureen made an appointment with a breast surgeon, who then asked me to see my internist first and get a prescription for an MRI. So I met with the internist, who poked at my chest and said, "This is more than likely nothing." And he wrote a prescription for a mammogram instead of an MRI. So Maureen was incensed, called the surgeon, and the surgeon said, "Come right in." So within a few days, I had a needle biopsy, and the surgeon also reassured me that 99% this is probably nothing. It's so rare in men. But 1% is still something. So I was obviously confused and concerned because I was getting cross signals. So 3 days later, I received the dreaded phone call that I had breast cancer. As anyone who's gotten this phone call knows, everything in life changes instantly. I had so many questions. What about my family? Will I survive this? What about my job? How will I support my family? And how will I tell my children and my 81-year-old mother? It was a very emotional time for me. The next few weeks were a blur. Meeting with the breast surgeon, an MRI, and then a mastectomy on my left breast. I was told that while on the operating table, I'd be tested. My lymph nodes, my 2 sentinel lymph nodes, would be tested for cancer. They did test positive for cancer. So while undergoing the mastectomy, 35 lymph nodes were excised and 34 were cancerous. So when I heard the news, I really didn't think that I'd survive. I thought this was it. My diagnosis was invasive ductal carcinoma, metastatic breast cancer, estrogen receptor positive, HER2 negative. I was 59 years old. The doctor told me I was young to have this cancer, listening to these stories. I guess males are older when they contact the disease. So at the time, I was employed as a customer service senior director for a large computer company. My position required 24/7 by 365 availability. I was often awakened at any hour of the night to deal with customer emergencies and escalations. I love my work, but there were high levels of stress and around-the-clock conference calls at times. Once I understood what my therapy would be, dose-dense chemotherapy and radiation, and became aware of all the possible side effects, I knew that I had to go on disability. I could not perform my duties effectively after my surgery and on the days and subsequent days after chemotherapy. I went from being a senior director to trying to survive cancer. My life did literally change overnight. After the mastectomy and healing, I had a hard time looking at myself in the mirror with my shirt off. So I decided that I wanted to have reconstructive surgery. I spoke with all my doctors, and each of them discouraged another surgery. Look at it like a battle scar, or have liposuction on your other breast, to have both of them flat. I decided that reconstruction was important to me, so I had the reconstructive surgery. Quite happy that I did, because although I'll never be perfect, I look 90% normal now, scaring children with my shirt off. And you cannot tell that I've had a mastectomy with a golfer t-shirt. So it was healing for me to have it done. I returned to work 10 months after my initial diagnosis, completely bald, pale, and while still undergoing radiation therapy. I was quite happy to be back at work and out of my home after all that time. The remaining prescribed therapies were 10 years of tamoxifen, taken daily, and regular checkups with the oncologist. I often wondered, how did I get this cancer? I had always been healthy. My BRCA test came back negative for having the gene that caused cancer. And there was no breast cancer in my family, male or female. A few years after receiving my treatment for cancer, I learned about the health impact upon residents and workers within the lower downtown Manhattan area. I wondered, could this be my why? Before, during, and after the 9/11 attacks, I spent a large portion of my time in downtown Manhattan. I watched both planes fly into the Twin Towers from the 37th floor of an adjacent building. I spent many months downtown after the attacks, assisting my customers in returning their businesses back to normal. There were many days of walking through soot, mud, and breathing in the smoke and particles in the air. The EPA told us it was safe to breathe the air. Obviously, that was not the case. I'm quite sure this is where my cancer started. Recently, a male breast cancer story was published in the New York Post about me and a few other men as it related to being in downtown New York during the 9/11 attacks, during and after the 9/11 attacks. This was picked up by multiple media sources. I was not the only one. Many other men were downtown that were downtown after 9/11 have been diagnosed
Sorry,
with breast
I
cancer.
couldn't hear what you
So,
said.
as a sidebar, just my attorney had 15 males at the time that that Post article was printed, and 15 additional males have called in with breast cancer. So one attorney in downtown Manhattan has 30 males with breast cancer for a very rare disease. 3 years after my therapies and during a routine checkup by my oncologist, a lump was found above the original surgical area. The lump was small and in the area of my left clavicle. Another biopsy of the lymph node was found to be the same breast cancer as my original diagnosis. My oncologist raised my cancer stage to stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. This lymph node was inoperable due to its location. There are many facial nerves and blood vessels in the area that could cause facial paralysis. Instead, a regimen of Ibrance and 2 Faslodex, or hormone injections, were prescribed in an effort to keep the cancer at bay. I too had my therapy yesterday. So, and the Faslodex injections are on the backside, so all the women, all the nurses in the oncologist office are very familiar with my rear end. The return of breast cancer further changed my life. Periodically, my company offered an early retirement package. In my position, it consisted of 1 year of full salary and 2 years of benefits. I was 62 and a half years old, and the benefits would almost bring me to the onset of Medicare benefits. I decided it was the right time for me to retire. I also decided to enroll in the 9/11 Victims' Compensation Fund. Thankfully, after a lot of legwork on my end, the 9/11 Health Program is paying for my co-pays and deductibles, which were astronomical. I would encourage anyone that was in the downtown area to sign up with the Victims' Compensation Fund. Having a diagnosis of breast cancer can be very isolating. It's even more so with men diagnosed with breast cancer. I feel so grateful that there were a group of men at Adelphi, and there are a few of them here tonight. I haven't seen them in a long time. I was actually able to speak with other men who were dealing with similar experiences. We even created the brochure that Hillary referred to for men to check themselves and be checked during annual physicals. This experience led me to becoming a volunteer. After all the media coverage recently, this story has gone far and wide globally and seems to have increased awareness regarding male breast cancer. I was the only male volunteer at Adelphi until recently. Thank you, Vito. And I vowed that if I survived, I would help other males affected with this horrible disease. So far, there have been a few men that I've helped guide through this long process. I'm eager to help and support any male that calls into the Adelphi hotline and work with the Adelphi staff to restart the men's support group. In closing, I'd like to commend the Adelphi Breast Cancer Support staff and all of the Adelphi Breast Cancer Support Group. They do an amazing job of assisting breast cancer survivors. They sacrifice their personal time on days, nights, and weekends to help survivors. They are a dedicated bunch, with many of them volunteering for many years. Thank you all again for the privilege to tell my story. And now, I would like to ask all of my fellow Adelphi volunteers to stand with me. All the volunteers. I would also like to ask all of the survivors in the room to please stand. And please give them a round of applause.
are here to help. So get home safely, and thank you for coming.